Hello, welcome to the Block 9. It's a really pretty block this month. I think it's quite dynamic, and it's not as hard as you would think once we break it down, which is what we're going to do now. So to construct this lovely block, what you're going to do is you're going to make first half square triangles. So you're going to cut 8 3-inch squares of fabric 5. Mine happens to be this white. That's my fabric 5. And then you're also going to cut 8 of fabric 13, which is this one. So to make half square triangles, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can draw a diagonal line and sew 1/4 inch on each side of that diagonal line, or you can use a 1/4 inch tool, place it here, draw on each side, and stitch. So you're going to get 2 half square triangles out of each of these. Here's one. You're going to trim it to 2.5 inches. This is a trimmed one, I believe. Yep, that's a trimmed one. So I've trimmed this up to 2.5 inches. You don't have a ton of trim room, but you do have a little bit, so they're not too hard to square up. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take these blocks here that you've made, and you're going to combine them with other blocks. And so you've also cut 12, is it 12? Let me see here, let me look at my notes. So you've cut 24 of these white blocks, my number 5, 2.5 inches. Part of them you're going to use in forming your half square triangles. The other part we're going to use on our rectangles, which we'll get to in a minute. So you take one of those 2.5 inch squares and you combine it with your half square triangle. You take your other half square triangle and you combine it with your number
9.
I changed mine is why. I liked that these 4 came together like this. They had them different here, and I really just liked that pattern. So you're going to combine it with this square, and when you get that done, you're going to have a piece like this. Now, to make our rectangles, we're going to come back here, and we're going to have 2.5 by 4.5 inch pieces. And then we're going to take some of these 2.5 inch squares, your number 5 that you've already cut, and you're going to do one diagonal. The only thing that's hard about forming this chevron block, this rectangle, is you want to make sure that you have 2 sides. So my line here is going like this. My other line is going like this. So I'm going to end up with a pair of rectangles that are facing each other. So you sew on your number 5 piece. When you get that sewn on, you trim it to 1/4 inch and you iron it open. That's the first part. You're going to take your other 2.5 inch block with the diagonal, again paying attention to direction. That's what's important on this rectangle block. You're going to sew it, and when you sew it, you're going to have your rectangle complete. Not as hard as it seems. So we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to place one here. We're going to sew another 2.5 inch block to this one. And this is how we get 1/4 of our square. When you have them all sewn together, it's going to look like this. So putting together, you're going to have 4 of these. Putting these together is not hard. I laid it out. You just want to make sure that the stripe in your rectangle is going in the right direction, and these you can put any place on your block. So a very dramatic, nice block. You're going to be making 2 of them, so you'll end up with 8 pieces like this, 4 for each block, and you'll have 2 of them in your quilt. So I'm going to leave this up on the board here for a few days after we send this out. So if you want to come in and look at it, you may, but really, it really goes together well. And the cutting directions are going to tell you to cut enough pieces that you will end up with 2 blocks. So, you know, like the first time when I read it and it said cut 24 of these little white pieces, and I thought, okay, I only have 4 per square, but then I realized as I kept reading that they're also in my rectangles. So I didn't find any mistakes in this one. So cut the pieces they say according to your color. Like I said, my number 5 happens to be white, my number 13 happened to be that color. So just go by your color chart that we made at the original beginning and cut the pieces. Take your time. Make sure your half square triangles are trimmed evenly. That's very important, or they're not going to go together. I found a good 1/4 inch seam to sew all these together. It worked really nice. I didn't have much trouble, and I didn't struggle with it. I just really like the way this one looks a lot. So there's block number 9. I hope you enjoy it, and looking forward to block number 10. And let me know how you're working on your quilt. If you're behind, let me know what you need. Is there other instructions you need? Do you need some help? What are you needing to get this quilt completed? Because we're gonna finish it up pretty soon, and I want you all to accomplish that. So enjoy block number 9, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.